Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Imperfect Empath. I'm Stephanie Johnson. I am a licensed professional counselor associate as well as a Texas licensed professional school counselor. Today, I just wanted to chat with you all a little bit about school counseling. I know in my previous videos, we talked a lot about my journey to becoming an LPCA and how you could also transition from being a school counselor to getting your licensure as an LPC. But let's chat about school counseling a little bit. Why did I get into the profession? What I enjoy most about the profession, and what I'm looking forward to going forward in my career. So if that's something you're interested in, keep watching. So I started my school counseling career about 5 years ago. I actually started on a probationary certificate, which is not common. I have to say, I was really shocked and surprised when they allowed me to become a school counselor on a probationary certificate. Let me not say it like that. I don't want it to sound like I somehow finagled my way into school counseling. That's a really bad way to start this off. What I'm saying is it's not common for school counselors to get into a working school counseling position while they are still pursuing their licensure. I was fortunate enough to be able to do that, and I am so grateful for that opportunity. And let me explain a little bit about what I'm talking about. In my master's program, in most master's programs, you have an internship and a practicum period, and there's so many hours that you need to accumulate. You can accumulate those hours while working as a classroom teacher, but it's very, very challenging to do. I got to supervise another school counselor in training a few years ago, and she's working full time as a classroom teacher, a third grade classroom teacher, at that, a testing grade. And she made it work. She put in the hours. She was there before school, during school, after school, putting in work. But oh my gosh, it really quadrupled the amount of work that she needed to do. She got it done. Amazing, amazing school counselor. I didn't, okay, I put in work. I put in my work, but I have to tell you, I really know God was looking out for me because I just so happened to be pregnant that year. Before I even, I got in the position, and then like a month later, I became pregnant. And so when I look back on it, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what I would have done to have to get all those hours being pregnant, knowing that I was going to have to lose some time from school, being on maternity leave. So I am forever grateful that I got that opportunity to work in the capacity as a school counselor my last year of grad school while I accumulated my hours for practicum and internship. What got me into school counseling? I started contemplating the idea of getting my master's probably my second year in education, just because I was starting to feel a little bit like maybe the classroom is not for me. uh, I do feel like I was a good teacher, but I was always more concerned about my students' overall well-being. I don't know why, but I just couldn't get past that. My admin, they really wanted me to focus on the numbers, focus on the data, raise scores, raise reading levels. And, that's my job as an educator. I am supposed to do those things. But my argument was always, well, I have this kid that's struggling. They're coming to school smelling like urine. They just seem really unclean. I had a student that literally had a bed bug on him and showed it to me and was like, oh yeah, they bite, but it doesn't really hurt. And, we've got tons of these all over the house. Like, my mind was blown. How can you even contemplate teaching a reading lesson when you have a student, crawling with bed bugs? other things like having to call CPS. And let me go back and say that I have only ever worked at Title I schools. And I know that Title I schools, have a more challenging population of students and families, low socioeconomic status, parents that are working multiple jobs, students that come from bigger households. You may have four siblings all in school at one time. It's a lot. And I chose that. I had always wanted to work with this particular population of students, just because I felt like if I can contribute in any kind of way for this underserved population, I wanted to be able to do that. But again, I just could not get past like those basic needs. We know Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Before we can get up here to self-actualization, we need to start basic. Are we sleeping? Are we eating? Do we have clothing, shelter, all those things that we might take for granted? And our kids, they're dealing with food insecurity. That's where I got stuck. It was challenging for me to really focus on the stats and the numbers when I was here. And I remember talking with another teacher who at the time was pursuing her master's in school counseling. And as we're having this conversation, she recommended that I start the school counseling master's program that she was in. And again, I'd always considered going back for my master's, but I'm like, I don't want to just like go to become admin or something like that. Like I want to be in a space, in a position where I feel I can affect the most change. And school counseling just spoke to me, it called to me, and I answered the call. I started in 2000. I really should like write a note for this stuff so I'm not like thinking about it. I started back in 2017. Yes, I started in 2017 because I had my daughter in 2018. And when I had started at a school that actually had not had a school counselor for several years. And, I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't even know that was possible. But they had something like a school counselor there. They had community and schools on their campus, and the social worker there kind of helped to fill in the gaps. And they also had I believe she was a sub that worked there that kind of helped with, things kind of related to SEL, social emotional learning. You don't have to be a school counselor in order to be an SEL facilitator. And so in between the social worker and the SEL facilitator, they kind of sort of were able to meet the needs of the campus in a way, but really needed a school counselor. And that's where I came in. I came in that year I had a mentor and I had a supervisor. So I was very, very much supported. Our admin was very supportive as well. And like I mentioned, I did have to go on maternity leave towards the end. I want to say in March. Yes, March, I went on maternity leave. And then I came back for like a week and then we were gone for the summer. It was scary. Anytime you start anything new, you get the nerves and you start to get imposter syndrome where it's like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I've only read about these theories. I've never really put it into practice. And, I felt like it came really naturally for me. I, love being able to go deeper with my students, the things that I wanted to do as a classroom teacher, but I couldn't. Now I can do it. I'm not a fan of a lot of the paperwork and being a testing coordinator. No one's a fan of that. But, really school counseling is what I enjoy, and I couldn't see myself doing anything else within the education system. I just really love this space and the fact that I get to occupy it with so many other wonderful professionals and admin that support me and let me come up with whatever idea, and put it into practice as long as it's, supporting our students and I can show evidence of that. Speaking of evidence, as a school counselor, you really have to show that what you're doing is impactful. And I've heard other school counselors say things like, well, I shouldn't have to, prove my worth in the world of education. People should just know that school counselors are important, that we're awesome, and we do all the things, and that, just give us all your money. I agree to a degree. You still have to show evidence. We are an evidence-based profession. That's part of the reason why we went from the term guidance counselor. You notice we don't say that anymore. We don't say guidance counselor anymore. Don't say that anymore. We say school counselor. We are evidence-based. The programs that we use for our social emotional learning curriculum, all evidence-based. We are taking data. We are documenting the number of individual counseling we're doing, the group counseling that we're doing. We're doing rating scales. We're scaling our students. We're doing, behavior charts. We're doing beginning of the year needs assessments, middle of the year assessments, end of the year assessments. There's always an opportunity to collect data, interpret it, and disseminate it, and use that to inform our program going forward. That is what school counseling is. We are governed under the ASCA model. If you're not familiar with that, that's the American School Counselor Association, and it pretty much outlines how we function, how we should function, I should say, because there are some school districts that are kind of behind the times when it comes to how school counselors should be appropriately utilized. We are not the hall monitors. We are not the crosswalk guard, although I do that at times. There is a thing called fair share responsibility. There are just some things that we are going to have to do to, keep the school functioning. We all have to do that. But things like being the testing coordinator or the 504 coordinator, or, we're trying to move past that and really be embraced as the mental health professionals that we are. Also, the curriculum specialists that we are. We don't get a curriculum written for us every year and put in front of us and say, okay, this is what you need to do every school year. We have to sit down. I usually start towards the end of the year, May into the summer, into August, and that's when I develop what my program is going to look like for that year, because it looks different. Every single year, it looks different. I cannot say that I've ever done the same thing twice. I mean, other than things like Red Ribbon Week, when we do our Gifted and Talented program, which has been tweaked a bit over the years, things that we do for the holidays, some of the testing that we do. I mean, there's certain things that are going to be constants, but for the most part, we're shapeshifters. We're having to, move with the rhythm of the school and change, depending on what's happening with our population at that time. That's why those needs assessments are so important. What else am I missing? Okay, I talked about why I became a school counselor, how I got started, what I love about the profession, some of my roles, responsibilities. What else? Oh, so the big question. Okay, you're a school counselor that has their LPCA. What's the end game? What's the end goal? What are we doing here? I will answer that question as best as I can, just because I don't completely yet know the end game. So what I will say is that I love that. Well, okay, let me back up a little bit. Once you have your LPCA, that does not mean that I am suddenly able to function as a therapist in the school setting. We have a therapist already. We work with Integral Care, and they provide wonderful on-site services for our students who need a little bit more intensive counseling and support. Parents do consent to that. They sign all the paperwork and, everything's good. What I do, or how I utilize my licensure and my role as a school counselor, is that it better informs how I approach a student, or I approach a situation with a student. I'm never diagnosing, because we have someone who does that. I'm never treating. I don't offer treatment. What I do offer is wraparound support, and having that background knowledge helps to, again, inform what decisions I'm making and what that's going to look like. I'm also a part of our threat assessment team on our campus. That's for anytime there is a major threat, homicidal, or even self-harming threat. I am a part of the team that responds to that. And so, having that additional expertise, it helps. It really does help. I know lots of school counselors who have decided to work full-time as school counselors and then gradually open a practice on the side, like part-time. And that is something that I'm considering. I am not prepared to walk away from school counseling completely. Like I said, I love the profession and what I get to do every year. And, just like any profession, you have your gripes and things that you wish were different, things that could be better, but that's not what this video is about. It's about highlighting what I love, what I appreciate, and what I'm looking forward to. And yeah, I'm looking forward to increasing my knowledge base so that I can be a better support to the students and staff, even our families. One thing that I'm really, really interested in is collaborating a lot more with our parent support specialist or parent liaison, and doing a lot more community outreach, especially coming out of this pandemic. Our families, I can't speak for other schools or districts, but I know our families have suffered a lot. There have been, losses financially, emotionally, mentally. We have a lot more students getting therapy services than in previous years. Just our families just needing that support, and being able to welcome them back to our campuses and just show that, hey, we're all on the same team here. Let's work this thing out. This has been hard for everyone. What can we do to support? So I have started doing monthly parent workshops with our parent support specialists, and I'm really wanting to see that take off in future years and expand on that possibly. And in the meantime, I will be continuing to work on my 3,000 hours towards my LPC. Once I meet that number, honestly, I don't know what the next steps are going to be. Like I said, possibly doing a part-time practice, which usually looks something like having maybe 3 or 4 clients. It's not much, you guys. It's nothing major, but over time you build your clientele, and maybe at some point I will, exit the school counseling profession and provide direct therapy services full-time. But for right now, that's just what I have going on. Thank you for staying for the entire video. If you have questions, if you have comments, please share. I'm assuming that you're here because you just want to learn more about the profession, or maybe you're looking into joining the school counseling fold. And if that's the case, I encourage you and implore you to do so. And yeah, it's amazing. I love it. So thank you again, and I hope to see you soon. Oh yeah, like, subscribe, all that jazz. And I will see you in the next video.